I find this mildly humorous, but the ingredient list starts with purified water instead of just water. Rest assured, like reputable brands will only use purified water. Like, it doesn't mean the resurfacing uses tap water.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is the Chemist Confessions podcast. I'm Victoria.
And I'm Gloria.
And this is a human conversation on all the skincare we talk about on the daily. And today's episode is decoding retinol.
Oh, that was a hot topic. I think the hardest thing about putting this episode together is narrowing it down because there's so many.
For sure. But before we get into that, how about a brand update?
All right, guys. We have been saying this for a really long time, but
we say a lot of things.
We say a lot of things. Thank you for bearing with us. But our incubator program is in full swing, and in this year, we're running 2 tests. One is already underway for those who may experience skin congestion or general skin irritation, and the second one is on cleansers. So keep an eye out if you're able. Keep an eye out and for the results from this test, and we can't wait to share with everyone what we're really cooking up in the kitchen.
Yeah. And if you are interested in joining, definitely you can still sign up for the future hatcheries to come and join our chemist crew. The sign up is actually on our website. Just go to our product incubator. All right. And the second thing we should definitely talk about is, holiday stuff is already out. And that's right. We are already preparing for our holiday kits coming up. We're really excited. Every year, this has always been a lot of fun for us to bundle and curate based on, I think, our customer favorites or what routines really make sense. And even though we haven't had like a new major launch this year, the combinations have like slightly differed.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so this episode should be releasing on October 23rd. If you're listening, make sure you subscribe to our website.
Yeah.
You will be the first to know when the kits come. We are aiming to get it out ASAP. So, your holiday shopping isn't so hectic and cluttered. So keep an eye out.
Please remember to use your podcast-only promo code PODCASTSHIP for free shipping. And that's also free expedited shipping as well on your order. And this code is stackable. Enjoy. All right. Let's get into the news.
All right. In the news, us has been this theme the past like 2 months. It's been slow. And I think everyone's just waiting for holidays. So we will definitely, the next episode, next episode when we do the news should be more exciting. We should be reviewing more holiday kits and what maybe new stuff might be coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
But for now, it's another slow week. And I have to say that I saw this and I was like, oh man, this is still a thing. So Ritual, the supplements company, is getting on the sleep category. And they're launching a melatonin supplement.
Yay.
So I want to call this out because it is $25 for 20 capsules.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure you can get melatonin at like...
Melatonin gummies, like 100 of them at Costco for like...
$5? Yeah. $8 maybe? So definitely a premium melatonin capsule.
Wow.
I actually was kind of curious because when I saw the pricing first before I read the article, so I was kind of like, oh, is this some like new blend with like newly discovered herbal ingredients and whatnot? No, melatonin.
Yeah. And I will say, I think they talk about, slow release.
Yeah.
I do think melatonin has been kind of under scrutiny recently just because dosing doesn't seem to be we haven't quite looked at it. And a lot of the gummies have been overkill.
Packed.
Yeah. In that sense, I'm like, okay, but yeah, that's costly for sure. Okay. So I guess beauty supplements going into other realms kind of makes sense. And I do feel like we do see some melatonin enter like beauty retail because of beauty sleep, I guess. So that, like we said, the industries often overlap and
I do think sleep is a category that's also a weird trend cycle in beauty. Like I feel like sleeping masks and
sleep cereal. Can't get over this. Guys, there's sleep cereal.
I do love my silk eye masks and stuff like that, but I feel like once in a while they're just like focus on sleep. Sleep quality.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We also have a new launch.
So this is a brand called Higher Dose. Higher Dose is a tech brand that brings more LED masks to the forefront. They have a more standard, I guess it's like a more rather than a rigid hard shell mask, it's a softer silicone mask, so you can have it really wrapped around your head. They even make one for your neck. I think a couple of episodes ago, around episode 20, we took a closer look at red light devices. And
episode 21.
21, yes.
Oh.
And one of the ones we review is a brand called Cure with a Q.
Yes.
And we kind of went into their clinicals in detail, talk about the nuances. We're not doing that here because I can't find a clinical.
It's true. Their website doesn't share a lot, to be honest.
I found them on Sephora first, and then I went to their website, and I still don't see any testing. And it's still a cool $349 for their face mask and also $349 for their neck mask. So to me, it's one of those things where, you know, like red light as a category is really hot. There are some really interesting data around it. I will say higher dose does share the wavelength of the light.
That's a good point.
But at the same time, I feel like if I'm already splurging in this price point for a device, then I'd rather choose one that has testing.
For sure. I also did want to mention because they have the infrared blankets and the mat. And these are definitely, I guess, devices that are used in office red light therapy. But I think the thing that's always important to know is at-home devices, strength and level will always be different than your in-office device. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think I would say what's noteworthy is they're the first to come out with that kind of product for full body. But I just, without any testing, I don't know the benefits, right? But so, kind of cool.
So if you have tried this brand, then let us know how your experience was. And
all right. Next one. I thought it was kind of, this is a little bit out there, but kind of fun to share in the Asian beauty realm. Kosei owns a brand called Addiction Tokyo. They're kind of that, I would say, like makeup artist brand. They're actually going to be launching in the States. Actually, I think they're already available for sale. So I thought that was kind of a cool share just because I don't know if you feel this way, Laura, but like I found my makeup tastes have really like minimalized to like makeup artist brands where it's like very straightforward colors and pigments and whatnot.
I definitely went through a long pocket of time in my early 20s where I loved those like Urban Decay palettes. And I'm like, wow, that is a really vibrant chartreuse. And I can totally wear that on my eyes. And now I'm like, what was I thinking? So totally agree. I really like so when I go back to Asia and I shop for Asian makeup, generally speaking, what they focus on is shimmer or like lighter shimmer, and color payoff isn't as strong as, say, artist brands in the States because they offer that more subtle look. But I'm pretty sure Addiction is one of their stronger color payoff lines, and I think that fit in the Western market is a lot better than some of the more muted lines.
For sure.
Yeah.
They're definitely on the, I would say, mid-tier price point, where, you know, you have your NYX line, your drugstore brands, but then one eyeshadow from this brand is going to cost you around $20 to give you kind of an idea of where they stand. But I would say, it's very minimalistic, lots of shades to choose from. I would say I kind of like their lip color because it's a lot more, they're going for more like natural tones and whatnot. So if you're into it, check it out.
And I will say that packaging, I kind of had a laugh because that's such old school shoot Uemura packaging that they boot it and Addiction's like, oh, the mold's already made, I'll take it. Is what it looks like.
That's totally true. It's very basic. Yeah, for sure. All right. Next, we have a launch from Goop.
I think this kind of goes with the trend of skinification of stuff.
The ifification.
We're skinifying all sorts of crap. But anyway, Goop Beauty launched their Color Blur Glow Balm and their release press work. They talk about how they make sure they infused it with skincare ingredients. So I'm just going to go over their ingredient list really, really quickly. So they have caprylic glyceride, hydroxysteric acid, adipic acid, glycerin cross polymer. Ricinus castor seed oil. I'm like, whatever, it's castor seed. Bis diglycerol polyacrylic adipate -2. Safflower seed oil, sunflower seed wax, cocoa capra. So a lot of oils and pigments. They did call out sea buckthorn fruit oil as kind of a standout ingredient that's a little lower down on the list. So all in all, I think it is kind of interesting. I think the structure of the formula is pretty typical makeup oil balm. But at the same time, I do think you can kind of see where they're more mindful, picking oils that sounds more familiar. Silence. Victoria's like, yeah, whatever.
Well, in terms of makeup brands that try to incorporate a skincare element, I would say this is on the lower threshold.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, there's brands like Ilia that actually try to incorporate things like vitamin C and whatnot. But here they're truly just, it's incorporating a little bit more plant oil. So kind of like, okay, I would say skinification.
Light.
Very light.
Yeah. I'm not really offended though, because at the end of the day, I think we definitely take the stance for like incorporating skincare and makeup. Sure, it sounds nice, but you're still not getting the heavy hitting benefits.
Totally. And also it's sometimes there is a payoff where you're like, it's sometimes if you try to do both, then none are done well.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I totally agree.
But I did want to say that this is a SKU that I will not be buying, period. Because I went through a pocket of time where I love those tinted balms.
Okay.
I think Bobbi Brown had one.
Yes.
So it's like, you put it on your lip, you put it on your cheeks, you put it everywhere. Tinted balms, woo!
And then you put it nowhere.
And then I have it drying up, shriveling up in tins, and I have like 8 of those. Maybe not the Bobbi Brown ones, but like, I feel like tinted anything is such an easy pickup and makes you feel happy. It's one of those like, oh, I love this color. You
I
pick
also
it up.
feel like you hear that it's like, you can use it 8 different ways. But then I realized I'm not good enough to know how to use it 8 different ways.
Yeah, exactly. So the last tinted balm I bought, I believe, is from Mad Hippie.
Okay.
RIP balm. Anything, especially in a jar, it just usually dries before I can even make a dip in it.
True. All right. So after that, there's one more that I want to share with Gloria. This is... I'm just going to read it to her and let's just see how she feels. Okay. So the title is U.S. Representatives Hope to End Animal Testing with Reintroduction of Humane Cosmetics Act. Okay. So the what? 5 U.S. representatives are leading a bipartisan delegation to reintroduce the Humane Cosmetics Act. The legislation purports to end safety testing of cosmetic products on animals and ban the sale of beauty products tested on animals. Just for some added details, the act is supported by a number of animal protection organizations. Some 11 states have already outlawed the practice. Senate companion legislation is expected to follow later in the session. I also want to mention that they have a quote from one of the representatives that actually says they do acknowledge that much of the cosmetics industry has already moved to more scientifically sound methods that do not result in animal cruelty. But they're going to pass this law. Yeah, I know. So Gloria rolled her eyes for our podcast.
I feel like this is a lot of like,
this is
posturing.
It's just fanfare to fanfare.
Yeah, it sounds really sexy, right? Like I can roll into Senate and be like, hey, I want to propose a legislation that ends child labor in Idaho. Like, I think it's effed up, the Idaho. Like, but
in Idaho, people are like, what the hell, man?
Child labor, like, what the heck? Stop lying. I'm sorry. I just made that whole thing up. But that's what it feels like to me is, I think within the States. So first of all, a lot of our listeners would know that there is new cosmetic legislation that's being worked called MOCRA.
Yeah.
And it has a lot to do with safety and production, new standards for cosmetics all around. So MOCRA is still in that transition phase of getting rolled out and getting pushed through. And they're still figuring out in terms of execution, what that means. Like, how do we hold everyone accountable? And these people just rolling through be like, you shouldn't test on bunnies. And it's so irrelevant to what's being done. It's just it's just wasted energy.
Very like tone deaf to the situation.
Yeah.
Also just putting a lot of unnecessary confusion and miscommunication again for consumers to be like, what? Like, wait, there's still animal testing going on. So Gloria and I can tell you that, for the most part, the safety animal testing is done in the very upstream ingredient aspect, right? Yeah. But brands, it's actually would be pretty difficult and also very expensive to do animal testing. So you'd have to basically go out of your way to do this kind of testing.
Yeah, and I think the understanding from a couple years ago is that brands that sell in China, the law there requires you test on animals. And the things like even in the Chinese FDA, they have passed laws to move away from it. So regular cosmetics, finished goods aren't really required to test on animals there anymore either. So this has been in the works for forever. So for these 5 people to come like jump on the soapbox, man, how could you test them?
I know. They really want the animal lovers vote, obviously. But we're here to tell you that this whole trying to pass this act, it sounds like a waste of time.
You're stealing a living. Do something useful. Think about the children in Idaho.
You heard it here first.
I don't know why I just picked Idaho to show. It's not true. I'm sorry, people in Idaho.
Anyways, all right. So that ends the news. We're gonna get into the decodes. Yeah, because there's some shenanigans there, like a lot of categories.
Yeah, so we decided to pick a couple that, well, first of all, example one that we're going to get into is just kind of a silly fun one.
Yeah.
And you kind of already know that it's a silly fun product just based on the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
It's Tony Moly's Pumpkin Retinol Firming Eye Cream.
I really love the packaging.
It's adorable. And for podcast listeners, it's literally a little pumpkin jar.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah, and I am guilty. I shouldn't say guilty. There's nothing wrong with the brand. It's like one of those like teenager, like a little like a younger brand that does a lot of fun packaging.
And they do a lot of like they have their like panda lines and stuff like that.
I definitely buy those stuff. Like when you go into Ulta and you see one of those like silly jars, I'm like, oh shucks.
Remember those lip chapsticks with the cat paws? Mm-hmm. I think those are great.
I buy those too.
Yeah.
So they're not a brand that is known for heavy hitting actives per se. So I do find it interesting that even they want to get in on the retinol side of things.
Yeah.
So I just want to do a quick decode. This is a very long ingredient list. I really appreciate them just go ahead and calling out their key actives and give us a percentage, which sounds really promising and sounds really like almost something you wouldn't expect from a brand like this.
Yeah.
So they call out pumpkin fruit extract.
Okay.
And then they call retinol.
Okay.
Pumpkin fruit extract clocks in at 10,500 ppm. And retinol clocks in at 2.2 ppb.
Sorry.
Yes.
ppb, wow.
Yes. So I think this is kind of a popular thing to do in Korea. Is to refer to their active concentration in ppm.
Yeah,
we see that a
parts
lot.
per million, ppb parts per billion.
Yeah. So what parts per million means is basically 1 over a million. That's what that means. And we went ahead and helped everyone translate it into a more commonly understandable percentage form.
Gloria did the math.
I did the math. So the 10,500 ppm translate to about 1.05% of the pumpkin fruit extract.
Okay.
And then the ppb, just remember, million and billion, there's 3 decimal points of difference. So a 2.2 ppb amount of retinol equates to 0.0000022% retinol. So I had to decode it here because I'm like, oh my god, they're so honest. Like they put that on the packaging, but if you do the quick math, you're like, oh.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, at least they're honest.
Yeah, A+ for honesty, guys.
They're honest, and you get a fun pumpkin packaging.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not mad, honestly.
Yeah, so I wouldn't think of this as a retinol eye cream.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy it expecting it for retinol purposes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to acclimate your skin to the 0.000000022% of retinol that's in this product.
Yeah.
But I just thought that, just want to put this out there in case people see it and get a little confused as to what that really means.
Yeah, and if you're curious about the formula, just looking at it, you've got water, glycerin, trimethicone up in the higher parts of the ingredient list, and a lot of different plant extracts. So really think of this as a light hydrator for your eye area. Yeah.
And definitely skews young. We don't see any butters or waxes. So it's not one of those, like, even though it's positioned as an eye cream, it's definitely lighter on that side too.
So we would put this in the category of like fun skincare.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Well, at least they were honest.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of adorable. I had a little chuckle.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, what do we got for example 2?
Right. This one is a little bit more dense.
Okay.
Because ultimately, we realize that there's so many retinol products out there. It can get really confusing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people's entry point to retinol nowadays is a drugstore brand,
yeah,
retinol.
No, that's true. It's a great entry point.
Yes.
Like if you're a beginner, a lot of times we have recommended Neutrogena as a rapid wrinkle repair as a good starting point. Just because, those percentages are often going to be at the baseline efficacy. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. I will say a lot of drugstore brands don't really disclose your percentage, so it's hard to tell. But most reputable brands, you can think about them as probably around the 0.1% level-ish.
Yeah.
But it's just a guesstimate because it's hard to tell. So today we're going to look at 2 different Cerave retinols.
Okay, let's do it.
So, retinol so popular, shopping within the same line is very confusing. First off, you have Cerave's resurfacing retinol serum.
Yep.
This one clocks in at $21.99. And I'll just go through the ingredient very, very quickly. Water, propanediol, dimethicone, ceteroethylhexanoate, niacinamide, a thickener, dipotassium glycyrrhizate. This is kind of a molecule from licorice root. It's more soothing based. And then you have their brand signature, ceramide MPAP, ceramide EOP.
And then you will hit retinol and then sodium hyaluronate and then a bunch of other stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And then you have the Cerave Skin Renewing Serum. This one is $26.99, so about $5 more than the other one. I find this mildly humorous, but the ingredient list starts with purified water instead of just water. Rest assured, like, reputable brands will only use purified water. Like, it doesn't mean the resurfacing uses tap water.
Straight from the sink, yo.
So it goes water, glycerin, cap triglyceride, potassium acetophosphate, hydrogenated palm glycerides, polysorbate 20. There's shea butter. The butter is not in the resurfacing one. And then you go a bunch of support ingredients, structure ingredients. And then you go all the way down. You have tocopherol, which is your vitamin E. And then you have niacinamide. And then
we hit retinol.
Yeah.
And then you have your ceramides. This inky is kind of funny. It's like the ordering is kind of interesting. But anyways, and then you also have your ceramides at the end.
Yeah. So Victoria, how would you choose between these two retinols?
Okay. Well, I think the two things that probably would drive my decision is the niacinamide and the shea butter. So if I am using... I almost think if I'm using this as an additional treatment to my existing routine with moisturizer, I would probably go with the non-shea butter version for me. But also, I would like to not have a ton of niacinamide. Niacinamide actually can be helpful in pairing with retinol. So I think it's not a big problem, to be honest. But yeah, so I'd probably choose the resurfacing for my routine. Just because I don't need any additional heaviness with the extra waxes.
For sure. Yeah, for me, the renewing is definitely positioned as more hydrating. You have glycerin in the second spot. You have some amount of shea butter. This can probably work as a standalone moisturizer for most people. Normal to slightly dry. But I wanna say that if you're choosing it based on retinol, it is really hard to make any firm conclusions here.
I'll also be honest, because like I realize there's also dimethiconol in the resurfacing here. And I feel like I might just, if I'm stuck in the aisle looking at this too, I'm like, I'm just gonna go with what's cheaper.
Actually, I think this was my conclusion too, looking at these two. What's interesting is resurfacing one is a little cheaper, but it seems like they did a clinical on it, but I couldn't see a clinical for renewing. But the clinical the details weren't given. I couldn't find it on their website. I could only find a picture on Ulta where it has like before after 8-week pictures. And that's it. So these two products for a brand as big as Cerave are both a little mysterious to me. So I have a lot of like thoughts about these in general. So for example, resurfacing, right? I don't know why they call it resurfacing. I don't know what you're resurfacing with this ingredient list. So it's a little weird. Resurfacing?
Yeah. I mean, I think they just wanted to, they're just in the thesaurus looking at what other words aside from renewing. I don't know. No, I totally agree. And I will say, actually, if I did see testing and price point was cheaper, I think that would actually drive my decision for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So over the inky at all. I wouldn't even care.
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, we will vote for the resurfacing one. Just know that you don't have to skip your AHAs on it because this thing is not really resurfacing much. But between the two, resurfacing, just based on the data that's available to us, that will be our choice. They do both come with a mysterious amount of retinol. So can't really say for sure one way or another in terms of retinol strength, which one is stronger.
For sure. Well, also whatever coupon you get.
Yeah.
Helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
I really like that. It's a good comparison.
Yeah, it's like very funky. And this is within the same line. I'm sure a lot of people look at these and be like,
If you've had this feeling, let us know. And which one did you end up going with? I'd be so curious. I mean, that's the end of our decode, but we should sum this up with a few shopping tips.
Yes.
I think that would be helpful. Yeah. We'll start with concentrations. You guys have heard it before, but let's do a review. So for retinol, beginning concentrations, you're looking at 0.1 to 0.3%.
Mm-hmm.
You want to kick it up to a more intermediate level, we would say 0.5. And then 1% is definitely that max, that expert level.
Yep. We do see a lot of percentages as a reasonable guide, but we do see a lot of weird shenanigans with retinol percentages. A lot of drugstore brands don't disclose their percentage. Just assume it's a 0.1-ish% or ask the brand if they are willing to let you know what level the retinol's in. We will say beware of the ppm, ppb labeling with retinol. Just do a quick math there. And another thing we've noticed is sometimes you'll see retinol percentages listed at like 2 to 10%. Know that that is not lingo that is very helpful because they usually refer to the blend, like the complex that they get that includes retinol. That doesn't, it's actually a little misleading. You're not actually getting 10% retinol.
Yeah, good point. Also, sometimes it alludes to a blend of different types of retinoid. So it could be just like retinol plus HPR, and so I would say that's one thing to look out for. And I don't know how you feel about this, Laura, but for me, I feel like hot take of all the actives out there, I feel like this is the category that percentages should be included.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I agree.
And weirdly enough, this is a category that really needs a decode because I recently, when, preparing for this episode, looking at some of these products, it's true. I mean, we called this out before with, I believe, it might be a dermatological product, but where they say retinol, but it's actually not either just retinol. And I found a couple other products that do say retinol serum, and they're actually using a retinol derivative.
Ooh.
So I'm like, what? That's not the same. So it is important definitely to start checking because retinol is such a hot category. It's definitely normal for suppliers to start looking for other more stable complexes that they can capitalize on. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And generally speaking, we do still think of retinol as kind of the gold standard in the cosmetic space. Yeah. I know there's a lot of stuff out there on retinol nowadays with an A, and also bakuchiol as a plant-derived replacement. We have done a dedicated episode on the science behind bakuchiol or bakuchiol. I feel like we've started. Yeah. But check that out if you want. But just as a preview, next episode we'll go into the retinol versus retinol and other derivatives. So that's where we'll basically wrap up this Decode corner and finish the episode up with some Q&As.
Let's do it. We polled you guys actually for some retinol questions. So some of these are really great. We're actually going to do more than 2 than we usually do. Let's start with, this is a question from Leafalina. Can I continue to apply my other serums and facial oil on top of the retinol?
Generally speaking, yes, retinol can actually go well with many serums. Just when you're introducing, beware to not overwhelm skin if your other serums are also very high levels of actives.
Totally.
I would say water-based serums should most likely go before your retinol because your retinol is likely a cream or oil base. You can put a face oil on top of retinol. I tend to feel like it's not necessary because retinol products have a baseline of hydration already.
True.
But,
they're usually emulsions.
Yeah,
agreed. All right, next question. This is from @rightno23. Your thoughts on following up retinol with the specialist?
So the specialist is one of our is one of our exfoliating acid treatments that features 18% mandelic acid, 2% salicylic acid, and 5% niacinamide. It sounds daunting, but actually mandelic acid is a large molecule and it's gentle enough to use a leave-on spot treat. Looking at Victoria to answer the actual question.
Right. So because of that, I would say, okay, so I think for acne individuals, it's not uncommon to stack this level of actives together in a routine.
Yeah.
Just gonna say it right now, a lot of us have really intense regimens, and this layering is not, I think a lot of us will feel like, oh, yes, I've done it before. Yeah. But again, it's definitely higher strength. So it is something that we would recommend maybe try patch testing in your retinol routine to see how skin does before you kind of go full blown active sandwich here. But yeah, I would say it doesn't, I'm not phased, but I also would like you to tread carefully.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes we recommend, especially if you're early on your retinol journey, to just kind of space out the nights.
Totally. Good point.
Cool. Next, Sarah Smile 26 asks, My lips are inflamed, but skin is fine after upping tretinoin to 3 times a week. Tips to prevent.
So probably what's happening here is the product is traveling. So we would try to say, do your best to avoid the lip area. I don't know if that's possible, but a lot of people are, more concerned about the nasolabial fold and then the chin area. But I would say that's probably one area. And then sometimes we've recommended applying an occlusive as kind of that
offer.
Yeah, that like topical film protection before applying retinol.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have a balm, you can maybe either use your fingers or use a Q-tip to just line the edges of your lips a little bit.
Apply it before
the
not
tread.
After. After will make it worse.
We'll seal it in. Yeah. But I was gonna add that retinol is oil soluble, so this method wouldn't work as well as say preventing like AHA from irritating.
That's true.
But also work to some degree.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But that's really all you can do because it depends on the formula. You'd be surprised how certain formulas you create can really, they just have this spreadability.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Next question. This is from @StelBell20. What's a good eye cream with retinol for wrinkles? What would you recommend?
I totally added this question as a self-serving moment. But,
what is a really good clinically tested retinol that we tried that's also you can use for face?
We will have to say our very own double play retinol. This is one where we formulated and tested specifically to use both around the eye and face with minimal irritation.
Yeah.
So proceed with caution, definitely patch test and ramp up. And I will say, if you want to try anything else, we do recommend looking for options that's been tested for the eye area because it's not just about the retinol, the formula as a whole. Like Victoria mentioned, and the track question, some formulas are runnier than others. This is definitely not an area you want that like excess migration to happen.
Yep. Treat that as our commercial break.
Thank you.
All right. Last question that we are going to tackle is from @Trintrue. Can breastfeeding moms use retinol or is it a big no-no?
Oh, okay, right. So, take a deep breath. Yeah, you can definitely use retinol when you're breastfeeding. I think retinol and a lot of vitamin A in general is something that gets flagged to pregnant women, especially oral vitamin A, because it's known as something that could cause birth defects. But your baby's grown now and it is out. It is a semi-functional being, and retinol topically is totally fine.
Yeah, the penetration of it is very low. Conversion. On top of that, they looked at retinol supplements during the time of breastfeeding as an actual helpful antioxidant and nutrient. So we would say generally for the most part, you are good to go. And congratulations.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's the end.
That's it. Thank you guys so much. Next week's episode, we'll get into the retinoid world a little bit more.
I think it's going to be good.
I hope so.
Yeah, because, we're looking at things like combining retinol with other actives, comparing them with other retinoids. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah. And what's funny is when I was putting this episode together, I want to make sure that we don't repeat ourselves too much. And I was looking at the blogs we've written on this. We've done some posts. And I'm like, we had never done a meats episode on retinol. Hilarious. I thought we've done this at least 3 times, but we haven't. So
we're
all
so
new stuff
good
next
at
week,
planning,
guys.
Yeah, so look forward to next week. But otherwise, Gloria, where can they find us?
You can find us on our website at chemistconfessions.com. Write to us at info@chemistconfessions.com. Or you can DM us on Instagram at chemist.confessions. That is our handle at a brain fart. Otherwise, comment on this video below. Let us know if it's helpful. And we're going to make a point to try to answer as many questions as we can going forward. So definitely let us know if there's anything you're lost on.
Yeah. Otherwise, thank you guys for listening and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.